The passage of time is harsh to many things, like the definition of the word awful, for example, but it's especially cruel when it comes to trends from different eras. There was once a point in history where the $6 million man was at the peak of popular culture, and another where you could aspire to be a telegraphist for a living. While these things have faded into the history books, there are other older things which still manage to hold on to a decent amount of relevancy today. Take Mickey Mouse and Pirates, for example. Their legacies live on not only through modern reimaginings of classic characters and people who download patch ROMs of Mother 3 over the internet, but also through tributes to their origins. This leads us nicely to the Caribbean Sail, a pirate simulator developed by Victorian Clambake that draws much of its identity from the Oregon Trail, right down to your characters getting dysentery so often that you start to wonder if they're infecting themselves for fun. When I originally saw the simple, mostly black and white pixel art style of this title, I was quick to add it to my Steam wishlist. What pushed me into actually buying it though was a trailer release for it back on January 1st, announcing that Steamboat Willie was going to be added to it as a playable character, the very same day Disney lost its copyright over the short film of the same name. Yes, the gaming side of Mickey Mouse's public domain debut was so much more than the catalyst for a slog of shock value horror games to be announced. We were also blessed with this free piece of DLC that gives you the ability to create your very own pirate crew and flog them whenever they step out of line, all while playing as the most famous rodent mascot next to Charles Entertainment Cheese. Seeing Mickey menacingly smile like that with a whip in his hand broke me the first time I saw it. I should note that there are many other characters and ships with varying traits you can play as in the Caribbean Sail, but for my time with the game, I stuck to Steamboat Willie as my captain and the Steam Behemoth as my ship when I unlocked it. Sorry Steamboat, you just didn't have enough storage space for me. You'll want that storage space too, since the amount of food and items you can use for fuel directly dictate how long any given voyage can last. And since some trips required for completing the game's story are several thousand miles long at minimum, if you pick a smaller ship, you'll either need to resupply at every single port you reach, or get really good at this harpoon fishing minigame, which is way too addictive. Seriously, I have over an hour of footage of me just working on building up my fish combo counter. Fishing and dysentery aren't the only fun to be had out at sea either. There's also freezing weather, lightning strikes, abandoned ships infected with the plague, megalodon attacks, and if you're not dead already, naval warfare to contend with. Ship-to-ship combat is so straightforward though that once you win your first battle, you've more or less won them all. Take aim, fire until your cannons need reloaded, dodge if you need to while they reload, repeat. For how many different ammo types you can buy around the world, I never had a reason to fire anything besides the standard cannonball. Also, the loot you get from defeating ships isn't great, with the exception of other nations' flags which you can use to trick enemy ships into thinking you're on their side. You're better off improving your standing with these nations by paying for their favorite taverns and then playing a couple rounds of Liar's Dice with them instead. Along with visiting these taverns, which have a unique design at every port, there's a fair amount of extra things to do while docked. You can buy and sell supplies, of course, but you can also get your fortune read to learn what's going to happen when you set sail and plan ahead accordingly. Alternatively, you can buy tons of booze and get so hammered that you don't care what's happening to you. Whoa! There's deliveries to make, treasure maps to buy, and treasure to dig up, and there's the occasional sailor who's willing to pay up to $20 to get their vessel a good careening. Are Barnacles alive? Are they alive? Are they living things? I don't know. I don't know if I want to know either. Last but not least, there's a separate section in every shop where you can purchase unique items that go into your inventory which have a wide variety of uses. The best of these items has to be the many different sea shanties you can find that let you change the music you hear while sailing. There's a healthy amount of variety on offer in the music department too, so here are just a few of my favorite tunes. Now, if all of this sounds great to you, that's because most of it actually is great. Though there is one major thing that I've avoided talking about so far, and that's the story. It starts out strong with you receiving a sealed metal box from your grandfather's estate that you have to take to New York for some unknown reason. But as soon as you set sail, it gets stolen by a ghost pirate captain who seems to know what's locked away inside it. This ghost pirate's a real pain in the Barnacles as well, since he'll reappear every 30 days and take half of your current supplies for himself. This continues to happen for most of the game, right up until what I'll tentatively call the ending. Without spoiling what exactly happens, you basically end up sailing all the way across the world, discover where the ghost pirate goes when he's not robbing you blind, sail a little more, have a decent boss fight, then the game decides that it wants to keep going. There is technically a conclusion to the box storyline, but in the same way that what happens after you kill Minecraft's Ender Dragon is technically a conclusion. Clearly the story's presence here is just to get the player going on their adventure, and there's nothing really wrong with that other than it resulting in the lack of anything resembling a satisfying payoff to all your plundering. No problem at all! A few other annoyances are sprinkled throughout the game. Do you remember how I said you can make your own pirate crew? While on paper that's true, in reality your crew doesn't do much of anything besides cause a random event to happen at sea every now and then, and die so you don't have to. And the UI is such a pain to use. They got it right for when you're sailing, which is good since that's how you spend the majority of your time, but on land it's a lot like a spilled bucket of Legos. A blocky mess that a responsible adult should have cleaned already. Even up to my final hour with this game, I would keep getting confused on which button I needed to press to reach the screen I was looking for. Next is the inventory. It's too small. There's so many unique items to collect, not even counting every one of the sea shanties, and the fact that it's beneficial to carry multiple copies of certain items, so a 20 item limit is just not enough most of the time. Even a 25 item limit would be tough to work around if you held onto all of the flags in-game. And nah, that's it for serious problems. Those few nuisances aside, the keyword I'd use when describing this game is polished. There are so many unneeded details scattered all over this game's oceans that simply don't appear often in games with this sort of aesthetic. It makes coming across them a reoccurring treat. Here are some of the ones that I remembered while writing the script for the video. Talking to people in the first town for long enough teaches you how to correctly board your ship to get a luck bonus. If you watch the prices of supplies, you can make a ton of money reselling them at the right port. There are certain side quests you can only learn about by paying attention to the dialogue of townsfolk. If you go fishing while it's snowing, it will also snow on the fishing screen. And finally, you can tell which ships have been overtaken by pirates by looking at the condition of a ship's flag. So, in case you've forgotten already, I bought this game mostly because the developers added Mickey Mouse to it as a playable character. However, after spending some time with it, I am very happy to have found a highly enjoyable Oregon Trail-inspired game with an expertly applied pirate theme. Not even the handful of lackluster elements I went over are enough to bring this title down much for me, especially when considering there are still more systems that the player can use which I didn't even touch on. Between the number of ways there are to play and the bounty of secrets there are to discover, I can't think of too many reasons why you shouldn't give this title a try. Just be prepared to face the awful wrath of Mickey Mouse's lash if you sneak any extra rations for yourself. And I do mean that in the modern sense of the word. Out of 10, I give the Caribbean Sail an 8. If you like what you've seen in this video, you can find the links to the Caribbean Sail in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and may your power-ups be plentiful.